It is the most wonderful time of the year. Unless, of course, you've been naughty. We're going to bounce back 40 years to 1984 when, coming off the heels of the wildly successful Halloween 1 and 2, we got one of our most well-known Christmas slashers in Silent Night, Deadly Night. Let's unwrap this one. So it's Christmas Eve, 1971, and a family of four are barreling down the road in the family station wagon, heading towards Grandpa for the holidays. The only rub here is that Grandpa is a catatonic resident of the Utah mental facility. It's a promising start. The family tries unsuccessfully to communicate with Grandpa as soon as they arrive, and the doctor decides he wants to talk to Mom and Dad in his office. They leave Billy behind. Now, Billy's a sweet little boy. He actually loves his grandpa, even during this crazy scene where his grandfather, who hasn't been communicating with anybody, suddenly turns to him, smiles, and starts asking him about Christmas. Billy tells you what any child who loves Christmas and Santa Claus would say. Grandpa shoots all that down and explains to him Christmas Eve is one of the most evil times of the year, and that if you see Santa Claus, you should hurry your little ass in the other direction away from him.
Cody, all the other ones. All the naughty ones, he punishes.
This was a really well done, really effective scene to start this movie off. That's when we get to the uncomfortable stuff, because we've got an unsavory Santa Claus in a Santa outfit, in a gas station, robbing the place and eventually killing the clerk. The family of four, middle of the night, driving down this dark, desolate road, happen upon this Santa Claus and decide they want to pull over and help him because he seems to be having car trouble. Once Billy sees this, Billy freaks out. Because of the story his grandpa just told him, he wants nothing to do with Santa Claus. And it would turn prophetic because this Santa had nothing on his mind except carnage and bloodshed, and he winds up killing and brutalizing the parents in a really gruesome way. Billy's able to escape the car once the car is wrecked in a ditch. After Santa dispatches of the father, Billy runs across the road and witnesses what happens to his mother. And for a child to see something like that, and I was a child when I saw this movie, it sticks with you. And it's pretty haunting. Needless to say, this plays a pivotal part in what Billy would ultimately become in this film. So Mom and Dad are dead, little brother survived, Billy survived, and 3 years later they find themselves in St. Mary's Home for Orphan Children. This facility is run by a lady called Mother Superior who has a very, very harsh way of dealing with children she deems to have been naughty.
Punishment is absolute. Punishment is necessary.
Fortunately for everybody there, Sister Margaret is an understanding nun to counteract sort of Mother Superior's firm hand. She understands that Billy, for the most part, over the course of a year, is a really good kid. It's just right around Christmas time that things start to go a little haywire for him. She just gets it. I mean, everybody there should understand why he has such a hard time around the holidays, given what happened to him when he was a child. 10 years later, Billy's grown, and Sister Margaret is still looking out for him, trying to get him a job at a toy store of all places. He's tall, he's strong, he looks the part, and he immediately gets the job. Now, who wouldn't want to work at a toy store? And seeing this toy store brought back great nostalgia for me because there was Castle Grayskull on the shelves. There was an Ewok playset that I had when I was a kid. The whole year, Billy is a model employee. I mean, he's right as rain. Everybody loves him. But as we start to get into that colder season, you know, we got Halloween that passes us by. Thanksgiving comes and goes, and we're staring down the barrel at another Christmas. And the more Santa faces pop up around that toy store, the more edgy Billy starts to get. Of course, there's a bully that works there that he's not fond of and isn't fond of him. His boss is sort of a drunk, but he's harmless. He's a pretty nice guy. And there is a really attractive young lady that Billy feels is very wholesome. Then we get to the point in the film where Billy is asked to play Santa Claus at the toy store on Christmas Eve for the kiddos. The previously agreed upon Santa was unable to make the trip, and the manager feels like Billy would be a natural at the job. Now, everything surprisingly goes smoothly. Deeming the night a success, the boss decides to break out the bourbon, start handing out booze. Billy has a few drinks and notices the girl that he likes going into the back room with the jerk that he doesn't like. There's a great scene where the owner comes up to Billy, who's clearly had a few drinks, and asks, "Whoa, Santa, are you going to be okay to do what you have to do on Christmas Eve?" And Billy says, "Well, what do you mean?" And he says, "Well, you know what Santa does on Christmas Eve, don't you?" And then Billy thinks back to what happened to him when he was a child and agreed, "Yeah, I know exactly what Santa has to do on Christmas Eve." And boom, full-blown snap. We are off and running with our massacre. Billy starts taking people out left and right, anybody who he deems in his way, even a couple of people that aren't really in his way. There's an unlucky couple that Billy just happens upon their house. Ultimately, he's got his sights set on the orphanage and Mother Superior. This one's got all the contents of what made a great 80s horror movie. I mean, it's got a high body count, a lot of bloodshed, there's plenty of nudity in here. It's got a believable story. All three people in this movie that played Billy, I thought were really believable. All the ancillary characters in this movie were really entertaining. For anybody who knows 80s cinema, they're going to recognize a handful of these people. I love the fact that Billy is just a human being in this one. He's not a zombie. He's not a supernatural demon that can't be killed. He's just a guy. And we witness that when he happens upon a guy whose girlfriend he just recently dispatched for being naughty. And this guy kind of takes him to the woodshed, gets the upper hand on him. So the climax here is cheesy, but it leaves a lot of things kind of open-ended.
There is no Santa Claus.
Naughty. Naughty.
Leave some room for the sequels we'd get down the line, and there are 5 more of these movies to harken back to. That being said, I thought about possibly doing a countdown with these films, and then I put on the second one while I was wrapping presents, and we won't be doing that because the second one's 45-minute flashbacks of the first one, and then the other 45 minutes is God knows what. I turned it off. I'll never watch it again. We'll never talk about it again. You should put that one out of your mind. This one, however, ages gracefully. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I'm not sure how many times I will revisit it. That opening scene with what happens to the parents still affects me to this day. Maybe it's the fact I shouldn't have watched that scene when I was a child, and it's stuck with me all these years. It's a solid horror movie. It's worth checking out. This is Aging Gracefully. I am Matthew Essex. Merry Christmas, and I will see you on the other side.